This computer. Okay. Hey, welcome guys. This is our we're digging in. It's Wednesday. What the heck's today's date? The 13th, right, of July. So a couple new faces. We'll let Chris say hi. Chris, why don't you say hi to the group, both the folks that are here live and also listening on the recording.
Sure. My name's Chris Coleman. I am new to officiating soccer. I am a baseball umpire with the Atlantic County Umpires Association. So that's a high school and youth chapter. I've been an umpire with ACCSOA for 5 years. Joe Rossi has brought me into this. I also work for the Vineland Public School District. So,
Oh, good.
As Joe likes to say, I am conveniently located for all the schools that we service in soccer.
Yes, you are. You're out there where you're out there where no one wants to go. So
trust me, with baseball, we picked up St. Augustine and Millville, and let's just say I spent a lot of time in Cumberland County.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Well, good. Randy, why don't you introduce yourself to Chris so he knows who you are there?
Hello, Chris. My name's Randy. Been playing soccer all my life, played college ball, played men's through my 30s, through my 40s, through my 50s. Coached my son all the way through high school in travel leagues. When he went to college, I started reffing. Been reffing about 8 or 9 years, mostly the club teams and men's games. Really didn't have a chance to do weekday ball because I've been in Arizona, but I've been reffing high school ball out in Arizona during the weeks. But since COVID struck, now I'm home. So I thought, let's give high school a try.
Yeah, we're happy to have you, man. Happy to have you, Randy. Jose, you want to say hi?
Yes, sure. Jose Jacobo, I was a high school coach for a lot of years. Had plenty to criticize the referees, so I'm ready to be a referee.
Now you've come to the good side.
Yes.
All right.
It's called the dark side in baseball.
That's right. All right. Good stuff, guys. Let's just jump right into it, right? Okay. So for those of you that I know at different weeks, we have different folks that can make it on a Wednesday night. And this is certainly, I know you guys have been emailing me. If you're watching this recording, make sure you shoot me an email. If you're not here live, shoot me an email and say, hey, I watched it, saw you. And, so you're keeping up with the content. And I do want to point out, let me just share my screen here. Okay, so I want to point out, this is the most important document that we have right now. This is your curriculum guide, right? So you'll have a link to it. And I have been adding a couple things here and there. One thing I added, which I'm going to show you tonight, are these things along the right-hand side, these rulebook slides. It's from another chapter in New Jersey, but pretty cool stuff. They've actually taken the rule book and kind of dissected it down. I think it's from 2 years ago, but so there might be a couple little changey things in there, but it's actually pretty good. And I like it. And, look, the premise of this course for everyone, right? I don't need to read the rule book to you. This is the great thing about the soccer rule book. It's like super simple to read. Out of all the sports, and I do, multiple sports. And this is very simple to read. And the goal of our Wednesday night sessions is to get together for two things. One, to answer questions that you might have, but I can take those through email. If you get stuck somewhere, you're reading something, you don't understand it, either reach out via phone, reach out through text message, reach out through email, and just ask the question, right? I'm here to help you. That's one. That's why we get together on these. I call them office hours, really. This is not really a classroom. We're really kind of just going through random stuff here. Like I said, it's an easy path to get into the chapter. You'll learn a lot more when you get on the field and constantly be a student of the game, because I don't think you can learn everything in 4 weeks at all. Like, especially just picking up the rule book, you'll get it when you get out there and get in those situations and ask a lot of questions. The beauty is you're not going to be put in situations where if you make a mistake, it's not going to be that big of a deal. It's lower level freshman JV games to start off. If you have some experience, you might be working some entry level varsity games. But again, not to you'll be in situations that you'll be able to handle. The second thing is every official in New Jersey has to pass the recertification test. Like I said, it's 50 some questions, I think 55. I haven't even, other than looked at the prep stuff. And everybody takes it online. And the only way you get access to that test, you have to register through the NJSI AA, state registration portal, and pay your dues to the state and pay your background check. You do that once a year for background check. And you get access to the test once you get they synchronize that with our Zebra Web system, which is our signing system and testing system. So once you're registered, all that stuff flows in there and you can take the test. The beauty is there's no rush to take the test, right? So we can take our time reviewing. We're going to dissect. We're going to start tonight, maybe do 10 questions or a dozen, whatever, and kind of look at some of the test questions. But you can do it yourself and go in and, just print a copy of the 55 questions and just start looking them up. That's all I do. And look, honestly, I don't know all the answers. I'm not a rules interpreter for soccer. I'm just here to facilitate a process. And, every year I get a couple wrong because I'm like, some of these questions are like tricky and try to throw you off. And I don't know if they intentionally try to do that, but our goal is Wednesday nights to be here to answer questions and facilitate us getting through this test. Now, it's not that hard. Trust me, it's open book. I will say, if you look in here I've broken down, you're looking at my screen right now, right? Yes, you are. So I'm going to make it bigger here. So I've broken this down by suggested weeks. So if you're just coming in and you want to try to catch up, you might have to compress it a little bit. I know a couple people listening to this session have just joined us this week and last. So, but everything you need is in here. A couple things I added this week. I put the rule changes in for this year. There's still, for some reason, I'm working off an old rule book from 2021-22. I haven't seen the new one out yet, but we're getting rule books, and you'll get a rule book in the next couple weeks. So I'm going to have Joe Rossi mail it to your house, unless you're up in the Egg Harbor area. Joe's up that neck of the woods. He can get it to you. But the rule changes are in here. There's this other thing here, NJSI soccer rule modifications. So this, if you open that up, you'll see that this is, let me just pull it up over here. You guys see that where it says New Jersey State Interscholastic? Does it say that for you? Just make sure you can see my screen. Guys seen that okay? Thumbs up? Yes? I don't see anybody. Chris, you hear that? Randy, you can see that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure because sometimes it gets stuck. These are modifications to the national rule book. Now, these are from last year, and I haven't seen anything for 2022 yet. So we'll go by last year's because I don't think there's going to be any changes, but mainly these are changes to what happens do we do in varsity games for overtime. That's pretty much it. There's a few other little things, but that's what we use in addition to the rule book. Okay. So, hey, Nicole, welcome.
Hey, how are you?
Hi, you want to say hi to everybody? Just introduce yourself real quick.
Yes, sorry, it took me a second to find the Zoom links.
Yeah, no
I'm
worries.
Nicole Perone. I am just starting out this soccer venture. I do 5 other sports, so I'm looking forward to this. I'm also an athletic director in Egg Harbor Township, so.
That's awesome. Thanks. It's great to have you, Nicole. I'm happy you joined. We're just kind of
Thank
going
you.
over stuff right now. Okay.
Okay.
So if you guys can go on mute while you're kind of sitting in the background, that'd be great. That'll cut the background noise down. Thank you for that. And yeah, so this document, which I'll put in the chat window right now for you guys, so you have it handy right now. This is the document that has everything in it. I just popped that into the chat window, and I've emailed this to everyone. So if you're listening to the recording, go by this. Like, this is this is stuff you should be exposed to. Do you have to watch it all, read every word? No, of course not, right? But it has everything you need. Especially now, I added this Google Doc copy. This is a PDF copy for print of the test questions. And tonight we'll go through some of these. I actually created a copy that you can go in. So whatever we talk about, I'll document in here. So you can see that as well when we come up with some test question answers. The other thing is just a reminder, in all sports in New Jersey, you have to take the online concussion course. It's easy. It's 10, 15 minutes. You just watch a couple videos, answer a couple questions. It's free. So, but you have to register on the National Federation site. You download the certificate after, and at some point in time, Joe Rossi, our secretary, will ask for those. But everything is here. And, I've started to put things in here. Like these are classes from last year, like these types of classes. So you can listen to them if you want. And I've put our links for every one of our Wednesday sessions. So we're kind of down here. It's July 13th. This was the link to this Zoom session that you're on now. But I've put other things in here for this week that maybe I consider this. We're in kind of week 3, sort of. Week 1 was very light. Last week, we just got started. So we're really kind of kicking it off right now. I do want to mention, if you haven't noticed this, that there is an in-person refresher. Like if you want to go do your test in one sitting on Sunday, all the regular members get together. I don't know what time, but it's in the evening, and for like a little dinner thing. That's at Giovanni's restaurant, is owned by one of our soccer officials, Franco Raffici, if you know Franco. But you can email him or call, tell him you're coming. I think there's going to be food. You can have a little dinner. And basically, they're going to go through the test, every question. You walk out of there with every answer. You get to discuss things. So it's a cool thing. Personally, I don't go up there because I live at the beach on the Sundays. Are not good to travel up the Parkway. But it might be if it's near where you live and you want to go, feel free to do that. It's kind of a great session. You get to meet other officials, get to talk about plays and things like that. But you'll notice in this curriculum guide, I've put a bunch of different links to different things, like different courses. Some of these are short, some of these are long, some of these are short. This one happens to be a little longer. Fouls and misconduct. Some of these are just documents you can read. So you can take a look at all these, and I would say, and I put like an estimated time it takes to look at this stuff. I would say, take a peek at them and make sure that we are, you should at least be exposed to these. So you have a copy of them, you've seen them, you know where to go for them. We're not going to have anything on Wednesday, August 3rd. I'm actually out on business that week, but it's good because it'll be a nice break. Our goal is to have the test done. I know it said July 31st, but I believe that date has been extended out a couple weeks, which is actually fine for us, because I'd rather us kind of like go through the test question by question as a group here and there, and you guys come back with like your questions and we kind of find the answer ourselves, kind of like they're doing up at Giovanni's that night. And there is a business meeting of our chapter on October, getting the months all wrong here, August 15th. And it is required for all our active officials. So you do have to attend meetings, but it's Zoom, so that is August 15th. I think that's a Sunday night. So you can just dial into that. And I would suggest you do that. So and then there's one later in the month. Then scrimmages start end of the month. And that's when you'll get on the field. And now scrimmages, Nicole, as an athletic director, sometimes in the off season, these are scheduled during the mornings when it's cooler, kids are not in school yet. So we'll get those out to you if it's possible, if you can get out of work for a couple hours in a morning, that helps you get on the field faster. But if not, let us know. If you like only Saturday mornings are your only option, then we'll get you in a scrimmage. And then season opens September 8th. So, we're not too far off for that. I hate to see the summer go by this quick, but, it's going to go pretty quick. So I'll pause. Any questions about the curriculum from everybody that's on the line right now? No. And you have read-only access to this. And the other thing I was fixing here are these little presentations. These are really cool. Like if you want to, like, I mean, I'm reading the rule book is not hard. Like, you know, the rule book is the rule book. So where's my rule book? Lost my rule book. Here it is. Okay, here's my rule book here. So the rule book, I have it online. So I buy the version of the Federation rule book here that has everything in it. So I'll go back to my library. This is the rule book here for $7. I kind of like it to be on my phone, and so I can go through and search, like, you know, if I want to search for anything, I can just do that really quick, and I can see the references, and it's just faster than trying to go through it. Of course, I like to have a printed copy when I go to a game, so I have it in my bag in case we need to refer to something. But then I go in here and highlight stuff. So, but a link to that is in the link to that is here. So, you know, you can go online and purchase that at Amazon. But I've also included the rulebook slides, which basically is everything that's in the rulebook, minus anything that changed this year, because this is from, I think, last year, the year before. So there's a lot of resources to help you find the answers to the test. And, you know, the test is kind of like a treasure hunt for a lot of people because it's open book. You know, every answer to the written test is in the rule book. You can basically find it. And that's what we do, right? So as part of this class, we're going to start with some things, and I'm going to go through tonight. We're going to go through a few of the questions, show you how we find the answers. And it's really up to you to go in, because I don't want to like give you all the answers, but I would be willing to, on our sessions tonight, go through some questions. We look them up together and we kind of discuss them and get through. It's really not a very long test. It doesn't take that long to go through it. Other than that, it's all open book. Okay. All right. So I'll pause for questions from the group. Anything from you guys right now? No? Chris, you good? Randy, Nicole, everybody good? Good. Okay.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Okay. So
Hey, Bill, I'm sorry, real quick. We have to take that concussion course on our own?
you do. Yep. You take it on your own. Yep.
How do we get to that link? Can you send it to us?
No, it's in that document. Everything you need is in this document. It's right here. See it? Right there?
Yeah,
Yep. So go into this document and you just start clicking away at things, and you can download them and access them. It takes you right to it. When you click on that, it's going to take you to the concussion in sports thing. And that's where you can order it. It's free. You select your state and it'll take you to the right course. And it says an hour, but I don't think it takes an hour. It's probably like 30 minutes. You can create your own account here, so it keeps track of all the things you do, and use the same email address that you use when you register for the state. If you do that, if you register for NFHS Learn and NFHS org, you can download, hold on, open NFHS app. Let's see if it opens here. Hold on. There is an app, which is pretty cool. I can find it real quick here. There's an NFHS app, which is a rules app, which is free. So you can download this, and notice it has my name on it because I'm connected to my account that I use to register with the state, because we're a national federation state. So therefore, I can go to my books and I have my soccer book. So my soccer book is here, table of contents here, rule changes. So my soccer book is on my phone, and it's free because we're a national federation state. You get a free copy in this app, not on Amazon, but in this app, you get a free rule book for any sport that you're registered for through the state. So, you know, it's all here. You just have to, you know, click on it. It's actually the entire rule book. So I think you guys can see that. And it's a little dark or a little too bright, but you get the idea. It's the NFHS rules app. And once you're registered, so for you guys that do other sports, you get those rule books as well. Okay. So let's dig in tonight. I want to talk about a couple rules tonight just to ground us, because I know some folks are brand spanking new to this. So I want to review a couple slides in just before we go into our test, okay? And I thought we'd take maybe 20 minutes to do this, and maybe a few minutes to do a couple test questions, okay? So let me bring this up here. Okay. A couple things that I think it's always good to start out talking, and this is for new folks or existing folks, and I thank you for the Raritan Valley Official Association who created this presentation. This is really good, and I've given you access to all this in that curriculum guide. Those are the things along the right, okay? One thing I'd like to point out, and you guys can see this hopefully okay, is the field, right? So one of the things we try to do as officials is we use proper terminology when we're talking about our sport. And if you haven't done soccer before, it is important to know that we have specific names for things. So in soccer, we don't call these sidelines, we call them the touch line. Anybody have an idea why they call it a touch line versus a sideline? No thoughts, Chris?
Because you can't, if you're over that line, you can't be on the ground, touch the ball over that line.
Well, I don't know if that's 100% true. You might be on the right track, but that's not why they call it that. But that's a good guess.
It's because you can actually touch the ball to throw it in.
Yeah, right. That's the only time you can touch the ball with your hands. They call it a touch line. You can touch the ball with your hands when the ball goes out of play. Instead of saying out of bounds, we always say out of play, and we say touch line. So we don't say out of bounds. We don't say sidelines. We just use proper terminology. So I'd love for you guys, everyone that's in this class, especially when you're talking with veteran officials, to use our good terminology. So we refer to this as the touch line, and it's anytime the ball goes over the touch line, it is out of play. And guess what? The touch line is actually considered on the field, because the ball, unlike other sports like football, I'm trying to think of some others, football, maybe basketball will be one. If you step on the sideline, you're out of bounds. If the ball and player are on the touchline, actually players can be outside the touchline as long as the entire ball, including the sides of the ball, go to the outer side of the touchline, the ball is still in play. That's so different than other sports. The player can be outside the touchline, and the ball can be on the touchline, and everything continues on. Such a different dynamic than others. Look at some of the other names here. The line down the middle, in basketball, we call it a division line. In football, what's it called? Midfield, whatever, right? In soccer, we call it the halfway line. It's halfway between, okay? In soccer, we call this line that's on the end, we call it the goal line. That kind of makes sense, right? It's kind of like in football, because when the ball passes completely over the goal line within the goal, within the goal posts, it is a goal. Obviously, that's the name of the game. And it's the whole ball, just like we said before in the touch line, the whole ball has to go over the goal line. The whole ball has to, just like on the sideline, or the touch line has to go over the goal line. That area that's right in front of the goal, that's about 6 yards out, is the goal area. And there's some very specific things that we'll talk about when we get into the questions. There is a mark that is about 12 yards out from the goal, which is the penalty mark. And a lot of times we hear, sometimes at the end of a game, and especially in high school, to end a playoff game, we have to do kicks from that penalty mark. but they're not penalty kicks because it wasn't from a penalty. We just call them kicks from the mark, and that's what they are. However, if there is a penalty within this area, and we'll get into that in future questions, if there's a penalty on an attacking player, and that's what we call them attacking and defending. So it's not offense, defense, it's attacking players, defending players. And if there's a foul on an attacking player inside the penalty area, the resulting restart, again, a restart is how we get the ball back in play, is a penalty kick. So, and we'll get into all that as we go through the questions. And you can see the different distances here. So 6 yards, 12 yards, etc. And the box is 18 yards. Sometimes you'll refer to that box as the 18-yard box, but it's also called the penalty area or the 18-yard box. Okay. Now, one thing I will point out over here is the bench area, the coaching area, team areas. Okay. This is always a problem. And most of the time that's not marked, and it should be, but our team and coaching areas should be 10 yards off the field. Notice that's 10, okay? And so we should make sure that they're back. And we should make sure that, I shouldn't say 10 yards, 10 feet off the touch line. So there's some room to run, not 10 yards, 10 feet. But the length of this is they can be within a 20-yard area. So meaning like players and coaches can't be down running around down here. So when you're working lower level games, okay, we have to be conscious of that because it's not a lot of times it's marked. Even sometimes in the varsity level, it's not marked. One thing to note is that no spectators are allowed in behind the goal area unless they're seated. So that's just another thing. Okay. Anytime, jump out for questions. So fields have to be marked. A lot of times we'll go out and inspect it. Some people walk off the distances. I'm not that type of person. If it looks funny, I'll walk it off. But look, you're dealing with if it's a little bit, like I'm not going to say you're 6 inches off, but you need to make sure that there's markings on the field before you start, of course. Okay. And, fields can vary from 100 to 120 yards. Some are bigger, some are smaller. They can be a little wider, but it basically should be a rectangle, right? And we talked about the goal lines and the touch lines, the halfway line, 2 equal halves. Okay. The center has a mark as well. And their marks typically are 9-inch spots, a 9-inch spot in the center. It can be a circle. Okay. There should be a 10-yard radius around, because whenever we have a re-kick or restart, that players for the defending team must be 10 yards away from the ball. So a lot of times we have these marked spots on the field. We actually have an arc which shows the area of encroachment where they cannot come in on a kickoff. Okay. We talked about the goal area, 20 by 6 yards. And so that's typically where the defending team will kick the ball after when the ball goes over the goal line and it's not a goal. So if it goes out along like down here to the restart is the defending team will get the ball and can kick it from anywhere within this goal area. Okay. We talked about the penalty area. It's the 18-yard box. And that is also important for those of you that are new. Just a reminder, the goalkeeper, this is the only person that can handle the ball within this area. So that's important. Okay. And it's also the area where if we have for some reason, there's going to be a free kick, a direct free kick, then it will be from the penalty mark. So there we talked about the penalty mark. It's 12 yards. It's halfway between the goal line and the 18-yard box. So it's kind of right in the middle. That's one thing you can always notice when you walk on a field, like where's this mark? Sometimes they put it back too far. I don't know why, but it should literally be halfway through. So if you know that this is 18 yards, a lot of people will just step this off. It's usually roughly 18 steps. So you get 6, you get 6, and you get 6. That's actually not too far fetched to go and walk that off, but some people walk the whole distance. I'm not that kind of person. I kind of feel like in high school, this is not the Premier League or the Major League Soccer. This is high school kids, right? They're going to benefit from sometimes lines being in the wrong spot and sometimes not. The penalty arc, the penalty arc is where when we have a kick from the penalty area, penalty mark, within the penalty area, that all players must be 10 yards away from that. Okay, all players, including the attacking team. A corner area where we'll do a corner kick, that would be if the defending team knocked the ball out of their own goal line and it didn't result in a goal, the restart is within the corner area. And still means, and we'll get into that later, that don't forget that all defending team players must be 10 yards from that restart kick. That sometimes they put hash marks out there, 11 yards, because this is a yard. So that distance where the ball would be is actually 10 yards. Okay. The only thing is, like, if markings get all messed up during the game, just keep playing. Like, unless you honestly can't see anything anymore, then you could potentially have them come out and mark things, but we just keep playing, right? You use your best judgment. And if there's other markings on the field, they're supposed to be contrasting. In high school games, there should be a corner flag that's not pointy, and it should be a bright color. Doesn't have to be orange, but it should be a bright color. And we do check those before the game. One of the things that we check is make sure they're in the right spot. They're not off the field. A lot of times the kids will come out and jam the flags in. They don't put them in the right spot. So when we go around the field, we'll check that. And one of the things we also check is the goal to make sure that it's securely fastened to the ground or has weights on it. Okay. So, you can read about all that stuff. Yeah. So this is the big thing, right? We go in, one of the things we always do pregame is we'll go check the goal. We want to make sure that the back edge, okay, of the goal is on the goal line. So it's the rear of the post on the outer edge of the goal line. A lot of times they get moved, and sometimes they're movable goals. So one thing would just go and just like bump it back a little bit. We want to make sure we're obviously not going to check the width of it because they bought it. So we're going with it, but they got to be anchored. This is super, super critical. We never, ever, ever, ever start a game if a goal is not anchored down securely. Now, if it's cemented in the ground, like it's like never moves, that's good. But if it's a kind of a movable goal, they got to have like something staking it in that if you pulled on it, it's not going to come up. They could have sandbags, anything, but it has to be anchored securely. And if you don't think it is, you call the game administration, say, we're not starting this game until this thing is secure. The other thing we can also check for is like holes in the net. Now, a lot of times you're going to have holes in the net. There's nothing you can do. You can ask them to tape it up or whatever, but as long as you know there's holes there, you go with it, right? We do our best. Some of these schools don't have funding to put new nets up every year. And all this stuff is there, right? So there's all the distances. You have access to this. You can look at this, right? So that's kind of a review of what we just talked about. And there are center flags, which sometimes help, but they're optional. The corner flags are required. Center flags are optional. That just tells you where you are in the center. And we talked about team areas. So you can read all that stuff. I think that's 10 feet from the touchline, 10 yards from the halfway line. That way it keeps people from getting close to one another. And spectators, we said 25 feet from boundary lines. Okay. So 25 feet. So spectators can't like come in. Mom and dad can't come in with a beach chair and sit like 4 yards off the boundary line or the touch line. And we already said no one directly behind the goal unless in bleachers. Okay. So that's it. And most of the time teams are on the same side. They can be diagonally across from one another. It's up to the home school to determine where that goes. And the key thing is in the rules, the head referee will determine whether a game can be started or continued. Okay. So the school determines playability up to the time when you say, let's go, we're ready to begin. But once you blow the whistle and the clock starts, then the referee determines whether we continue. It is not uncommon because the school administration might say, hey, we're going to try to get this game started. You go out, you start the game, and like in the first minute, people are slipping and sliding, and you're like, this is not safe. And it starts pouring, blow the whistle, stop the game. So you are responsible for that. Okay. A real easy one is rule 2, the ball. So one thing about the ball, well, first of all, any questions on the field from you guys? Pretty easy, right? And again, it's in the rule book, so you can read about this. When you go in the rule book and you read, if I go into rule number 1, so let me go back to rule number 1 here. Rule number 1, where am I? Yeah, field of play. So when you read it, it talks about everything we just talked about in here. So when you start talking about, but now what's good is, though, they get into these situations and rulings. So these are really good. When you read the play, you can see, hey, a game is to be played on a field where the home team logo obscures the halfway line and center circle. Ruling, that's illegal. The game may be played, however, you must notify the state association following the game. So it gives you some really good plays that you can think about, like what should I do in this situation? They've come up with some good ones, not everyone, but some good ones. So as you're reading the book, it's super easy to read. And again, I can't give you it's not for me to sit here and read the rule book to you, because I think that would be silly, because you can certainly do that. It's really up for us on these sessions to talk about things that maybe you don't understand. As you go through the rule book, circle it, highlight it. You got the digital copy. What I do is if there's something I want to highlight, I just go over it and then it pops up my highlighter, and or I could put a note in here like, ask Billy about this, right? And then I can save that and it puts a note in there. So there's my note. So when I go back to it, I can maybe remember, go back to it. So that's why I love both the printed copy as well as this digital copy of the rule book. Works out really nice. I do want to just show you a couple other slides that are super simple here. I want to talk about the ball and equipment, and then we'll do a couple questions and then we'll call it a night, unless you guys have questions. So a couple things about the ball, super simple. The home team is responsible for providing the ball, and there's 3 of them at every level. Unless you're doing like junior high school, if you're doing like sub high school, anything 7th, 8th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, like take what you get, right? But if we're doing high school, the home team should supply the balls. And if they can't, then you can go between 2 teams and kind of mix and match, or maybe the visiting team has 3 really good balls. For some reason, maybe the home team forgot. I don't know. They left them in the locker room. There's some specifications on this. The key thing is you don't want them too hard. You don't want them too soft. They should be like, feel good. Okay. And one thing is, if for some reason, and it's happened once in a while, they kick a ball and it deflates, it pops, right? What do? We're going to resume play with something called a drop ball, and we'll get into that later. But used to be you would drop ball between opponents. You drop it between them and they kick at it, but we don't do that anymore. All drop balls are uncontested now. So we give the ball back to the team that had possession of it last, or who was in control of the ball last. Okay. And if the ball deflates during a penalty kick, the penalty kick is retaken. So what's interesting is that question just literally came up in my soccer test. So it happens to be the first question on our list. So what's the proper restart for if the ball becomes deflated when it hits the crossbar? What's our restart? Just gave you the answer a minute ago. What was it?
We take the penalty.
Yes, we do, right? Penalty kick is retaken. So there's your first answer. You got one right. Retake the penalty kick, right? So because we cannot play. So I'm going to highlight that on the sheet. And what we're going to do as we go through here is highlight the answers that we think are right. I'm not guaranteeing these are right, but at least we all agree that they're right. It wouldn't be the first time I got some of these crazy questions wrong. So you have access to this document as well that I'm putting these answers in inside this curriculum guide that I've given you. Line number 6 has, see I'm saying capturing input from the class. So I'm getting your input and it's a Google Doc version. You can go see it and you have access to it. You can't change it, but you can go see it. So that's this document right here. So over the next couple sessions, and as I start to come up with things, I'm going to put questions in here and we'll kind of talk about it. Okay. There's only 50.
Phil, I know you mentioned the curriculum guide a couple of times. Where is it? Did you say?
I'm going to pop that link into the chat window one more time. So you guys have it.
Okay.
Yeah, no
In the
worries.
chat. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, open up that chat window. It's probably in there, but I'm going to pop it in there again. Hold on, let me see where my chat window went. Here, I'll pop it in again. Yeah, that's the document. That has everything. And guess what? When I find new things, I put them in there, right? So you should check that, back and forth and make sure you have all that stuff. I mean, you could make a copy of it if you want or download it as a PDF, but I do add things to it. I probably am not going to add too many more things to it, but maybe 1 or 2 things here or there. Okay. And by the way, these slides that I'm showing you right here, they're all on the right-hand side. They're these rule book slides that I'm showing you. So you have access to these too, if you want to go back. And I think it's just really great review. Our current officials use these all the time. The last thing I'll talk about the ball is that it's supposed to have this National Federation authenticating mark. It looks like this circle. Sometimes it looks like this. But you should see this on the ball. I would say that on occasion we go to a school that they, for some reason, don't buy balls that have this mark on them, and we still play the game if, especially the visiting team doesn't have suitable balls to use. But we will notify our chapter, and our chapter secretary and a signer will call the school and say, hey, you guys don't have the proper balls. Especially if you get into the playoffs, that's a big thing. So that's it for the ball. It's pretty simple. Typically, you'll have 3 balls, 1 on each side, and they ball runners, the schools are supposed to supply a ball runner. Now, lower levels, sometimes they don't, right? They don't have kids that can run on the side. Can they have a player run over there, put a penny on that's a different color so you don't confuse them that they're on the field? Absolutely, right? You can do that. But, you're supposed to, at the varsity level, we always start the game with ball runners because it can be a substitute that's on the bench that can go run the touch lines. Questions on the field or the ball? Super, super simple, right? Those are the very first 2 things. I want to jump to rule 4 because that is equipment. And that's the last thing we'll talk about. And we'll do a couple questions again. Done. So there's things, required equipment, optional equipment. There's these 2 terms, illegal and improper equipment. And guess what? It's the coach's responsibility for everything. What do we do if not? Well, we have certain things by rules that we can do. So here's a couple quick things, right? They have to have jerseys, shorts, stockings, right? Shoes, all that kind of stuff. And one thing about logos is that there can only be one manufacturer's logo on the outside of each item. They can't have like Nike all over the place. And, if that's the case, we always play the game and you report it. That's all. You don't stop the game and say, it looks illegal. You got too many Nike logos on there. So, and it's 2 1/4 inches in any direction. So that's really important. Shin guards are one of the things that we always check pregame. And we'll talk about the pregame procedures when we get into mechanics and stuff. But it should be noted that the 2-inch rule, the bottom edge cannot be any higher. It has to be less than 2 inches above the ankle where the ankle bends. So, and a lot of kids will like to they'll buy small, undersized shin guards and slide them way up because they feel like they have more ability to run. So if it's more than 3 fingers, about 2 inches, then they either pull them down or they don't participate. That's it. They have to be worn under the stockings, and they're supposed to have this Noxy seal on them, but we don't look for that stuff. We just go under the assumption, okay? And that age appropriate thing is like they shouldn't be buying U10 shin guards if they're 17 years old and they're much larger, right? There it is right there, 2 inches. There's that 2-inch rule. So it should be legally worn. If they hike them up, no good, no good. And they can fix it. And the penalty is they fix it. If you notice that when they're on the field, well, we'll talk about that in a second. Okay. That's that Noxy seal that's on there. Again, we don't check for that, but if you're not sure and it looks like they're put like a piece of paper in their socks, and you're saying like that's not a real shin guard. You didn't buy that. You made that at out of plastic or something. Then you can look for that. It's got to be an approved thing. This is important, right? Jerseys must match all players and be different from the opposing team. This was a change from a couple years ago. The home team must wear solid dark color jerseys. Don't be surprised in games where the visiting team will show up in a dark jersey and the home team's a dark jersey, but they're contrasting. But that's still not right. That is technically they should change if they have their other jersey. And you say, well, what if they don't have their other jersey? The answer is they still play. You let them play and you're going to report it. If they're the same color, then you might not be able to play. If they're like exactly the same color, you'd be like, how the heck are we going to play? Okay. Jerseys must have numbers, 6 inches on the back, 4 inches on the front. That includes goalkeepers as well. There's a goalkeeper exception where they can wear any color as long as it contrasts with the other players on the field. Okay. How do you define dark? Because the home team is in a dark color. Anything that contrasts with white. Can't be like a light gray that doesn't really contrast with white. If you have under apparel, it's got to be similar in length, solid color. Doesn't have to be necessarily the same as a jersey and all alike. Can't be like camouflage, tie-dye, like crazy colors, solid single color. Okay. Same thing with the manufacturer's logo. Yes, we allow a commemorative memorial patch with state approval. Okay. Stockings or socks must match and must be the same color and must be different from the opposing team. Okay. So, therefore, if they are, they all have to match, right? So you can't have like all these, because as officials, the thing that's going to help us the most is the sock color, when seeing who's tackling who and all that kind of stuff. If they put tape or straps, they must be similar color to the part of the sock which it's covering. Okay. They do let a couple logos on there, but again, it must be single solid color. Yes.
Question with the undergarments, or the the Under Armour shirts and whatnot. Same color, like every team has to wear the same color. So for example, if you're doing like Vineland High School, they all have to wear black or red or whatever color, like a attacker cannot wear white and a defender cannot wear black, correct?
That's right. They got to be all alike. Yep. They got to be all alike. So, and most teams do that. Like they'll say, we're going to wear white, but it doesn't have to match the jersey or anything like that. Because again, some sports, they have to match the jersey, but not in soccer because we're more worried about the feet than we're worried about the jersey, Okay. Shorts. If there's anything visible, again, same thing, all like solid color. It doesn't necessarily have to be the same. Okay. Shoes, leather, nylon, plastic, metal. Okay. They can't, if altered, they can't have sharp edges or dangerous if you consider them dangerous. We used to check stuff like that, but we really don't anymore. They can't wear baseball. So there are cleats made specifically for soccer. So that's what they should use. Goalkeepers, they can wear shorts and stockings, but they don't have, they do not have to match their team. So they can match the team. The shorts and stockings can match, but the jerseys must be different from the players, but can be the same as the opposing keeper, right? And must have a number. Here's what we find. A lot of times goalkeepers don't have numbers. Okay. Goalkeepers can wear head protectors as long as it doesn't have a bill and doesn't cover the face. Soft bill caps can be worn, so like a baseball hat. Knee braces, as long as they're unaltered, are allowed. So as long as they don't have sharp things. And casts and splints have to be covered by foam, 1/2 inch thick, slow recovery. These are typically test questions, but again, it's open book, so you can find that easy. So easy stuff. Yeah, they can wear cast and splints, especially on the arms, because you don't use your arms in soccer. So it's a little bit easier. There's some new changes to hair control devices this year. Beads are going to be permitted this year, religious beads. So here's the thing, as an official, anytime you think something is weird and someone says this is religious, you let them play, you write it down, and you report it. That's it. We never, especially if they say it's religious, we don't want to get into that can of worms. It's not worth it. And you're covered as long as you report it. If you don't report it, you're not covered. So anything that's dangerous, you do not have to let them. But if it's like beads in the hair or something, but if they have sharp like pins and things sticking out, no good. So you can see medals have to be taped down. If it's a medical alert bracelet, the medical part of it can be like visible. So on here you see ankle braces. So they're certainly legal. Optional equipment, I won't go into this. All this stuff makes sense. Hearing aids, tooth protectors or glasses are permitted, gloves are permitted. All this stuff is permitted, right? And again, we talked about religious head coverings, soft material permitted. Face mask for facial injury must be molded to the face and have a medical release at the field. All that stuff gets approved by the state association. Most schools know that. And there are some things that are already pre-approved, but still they'll have a note with it, okay? Things that are illegal kind of make sense, right? Metal stuff, hard plates, things that are just like unyielding, even if it's covered, like you say, like, man, if I got hit with that, that would hurt. That's up to your judgment, right? And casts and splints, unless they're covered by this foam, no go, no go. Shin guards, sharp edges, anything, illegal equipment are spectacle guards. The things that go around the back, I wear them on my fishing glasses because somebody could yank you from behind. No helmets or visors, no do-rags, bandanas, anything for adornment, no good. Jewelry, no go. No jewelry. That means in the girls' game, even if they say, what if I tape over my earrings or my ear piercings? No go. They're not permitted. Medical or religious medals still must be taped. Okay. Don't let them fool you that I don't think we've ever had a situation where someone says these are religious earrings. So we do remove those. Head coach is responsible for everyone properly equipped. One of the things we ask before the game, for every game, is the coaches come together and we say, hey, coach, are all your players properly and legally equipped right now? And the answer should be yes. You should get a yes. Other coach, are your players legally and properly equipped? Yes. We also ask them, are you going to practice good sportsmanship today? Yes. We ask them those two questions. Again, we'll get into that in the mechanics when how to start a game. Not important for right this minute because it's more of a state thing. But if for some reason they're wearing illegal equipment, okay, like they have the wrong jersey, they're wearing jewelry, they're wearing striped socks. Remember, socks have to be solid color. Their shin guards are too small. What do we do? So there's two things. It's illegal equipment if they're not wearing equipment that's required, or if they're wearing equipment that is not allowed by rule. That's illegal, okay? So the rule is the first player illegally equipped is instructed to leave the field. So if you find someone with earrings, like after 5 minutes, you're like, oh, wow, I didn't see that before. We asked them that, but so at the next stoppage of play, unless it's dangerous, you can wait. Next stoppage of play, say 25, you have earrings in your ear, you need to leave the field and correct that situation. And we also caution the coach. Now, we haven't talked too much about caution, but a caution is a documented process where we pull out our yellow card. We have two different types of cautions, and we'll pull out our caution card and say, Coach, that is your first caution, okay? The player can be replaced if they want to, or they can play shorthanded. So if they're not, again, that is if they're illegally equipped and you catch that and it's not dangerous. Now, any subsequent time that you find someone, so let's say another player comes back, or that could be that same player, doesn't matter, right? Same process, they leave the field, next stoppage of play, except this time we've already cautioned the coach. This time we caution the player. And we'll talk about cautions. You get one caution free, then the second one will disqualify you from the game. So again, same thing, you can replace them, but the player can re-enter at the next substitution opportunity. And typically we'll check and make sure, okay, did you remove those? Okay, come on back in. That's it. So the first time illegally equipped, it's a caution, the player leaves, caution to the coach. Second time, player leaves, caution to the player. That's a little different for those of you that, Randy, that work other things, I believe. Kind of don't.
When you say caution, is that the first one is a verbal caution and the second one is a yellow card?
No, both yellow cards.
So then he gets a red card and he's out the second time.
No, because the second one's only to the player. All right. So the player is cautioned on the second one. Right. So the coach is cautioned on the first one. The player is cautioned on the second one. And any.
Okay, 1 and 1.
Yeah, right. So basically, we're not going to throw a coach out for illegal equipment, but they will get one caution to get their attention. Now, there's this other thing called improperly equipped players. So if they're wearing legal equipment, like a shin guard, but it becomes illegal during play. So here's some examples. The shoe falls off, right? It happens. The jersey gets ripped and it's dangerous. The shin guard comes loose. Blood on the uniform is another big one. So what do you do? Right? So that's improperly equipped. So same thing. Player comes out of the game at the next stoppage, unless you think it's dangerous, which most of the time it's not. Okay. And then the player can be replaced when they're removed from the field. So yes, a substitute can come on. The player removed, if not substituted, may re-enter the game at the next dead ball after checking with an official to make sure the equipment has been corrected. So they could play shorthanded if they want, play with 10, or they can put a sub in. Then if they're going to put a sub in, that player can come back and the next opportunity to substitute. And again, we'll talk about that later. You guys will read about that. And that's it for equipment. Yes, if you go into the rules, there's a little bit more on equipment. If I go into the section on oops, that's not what I wanted to do. If I go into the section on equipment, rule 4, there's a bunch of stuff in here. You can read and you'll see things here. And there's a lot of situations. What do you do? What's legal? What's, red compression shorts of similar length, white compression shorts, legal, multicolored sliding pants, illegal, right? So you get to see all that stuff. And as you read through this, it'll kind of make sense. And my recommendation is to kind of start reading through these. So how I do this test, and what I recommend you doing, is I go through here and I'll look up one. So as an example, a pass strikes the referee who's standing in the penalty area. So what I do is I just go through and I think I know the answer to this. You guys might know the answer. And I'll just type in strikes the referee, right? And there, 6 things. So now I can see that there's maybe it's here. So I can go through and see some situations and I can read about it and I can get my answer. Okay. Now, what I will start doing is I'd like you guys to start the next time we get together. I want to dig into the test. This was kind of our kickoff for the test. Have any of you started this yet? The test, getting into the questions? No?
No.
Okay, that's fair. My recommendation is to go in and start digging into this. I'm going to do it this week. So when we get back together next week, again, it's it shouldn't take more than maybe an hour and a half, maybe, to go through these. There's 50 questions. You can typically find the answer pretty quick. Skip ones maybe you're not sure of. And I'd like to get back together. And part of what we start doing next week is dissecting this test. And what I will do is I'll break the test up into pieces so that we can start, because we've already covered some of the rules tonight. And we'll cover next week, we'll cover some of the other rules. And if I go into here, you can see we have start of play, ball in, out of play, all these other things. We can start talking about these a little bit in context with the questions. I think that kind of makes it. But the best thing I think to do is I want to start dissecting the test and start going through it. And we can start asking questions through email. I love doing that. I'll throw when I find a tough question on here, I'm going to throw it out to you guys and see what you think. And I always love to look up the rule reference, right? Because it's easy to guess, but it's always good to go into the rule book, think about, well, where did I find the answer? What rule reference actually is it? So that's what we need to start doing right now. We have plenty of time to do it because I believe they've extended the timeout. I thought we had maybe only 2 more weeks, but somehow I think we have 3 or 4. So which is great. We can take our time, use the test as our kind of our springboard to understanding all the rules, give you time to read the rule book, get into the rule book, give you time to get into some of these documents and take a look. This is self-paced, right? We're all grown-ups here. I don't need to sit and read the rule book to you. That's something you need to do. Read the rulings and take a look at some of these things. Some of these videos are fantastic. And maybe you say, like, I don't have time 90 minutes to sit down and listen to this, but this class has run for the last couple of years. I've recorded it every time. So I'm giving you access to those recordings. And if you click on it, you'll see I go through most of the questions repeat every year. And you'll hear how we break down the question, how we get into the rule reference. And it's an amazing way to learn. Self-paced, you're not bored to death, and you can do it at your leisure. I really like this way of learning. I hope it's good for the way that you like to learn, because I'm not the type of person where like tonight, I kind of read some slides to you, but I really didn't. I wanted to kind of throw a few things up there and kind of talk behind them a little bit. And we'll still do that with some of these other things, but I really like to start to get into some of the questions in context with the rules. Okay? So that makes sense, folks? Pretty simple, right? We have plenty of time. It's not a stressful thing. We have a few weeks left, a good month before we're really going to get close to the field. And we'll talk a lot about, once we get past the rule test, we're going to talk about, like, actually, what do you do when you get on the field? How do we actually run the game? What are the mechanics? How do we, handle calling fouls, this and that, right? So we'll do all that stuff once we get a little bit further down the line, and make sure that you're all comfortable, depending on your already experience in soccer. Okay. Questions before we go? I know some of you have registered already with the state. That's important. In the next, like, I would do that sooner than later, because you can't get into the Zebra web system until you register for the state. That's super critical. So, and that you can't take the test until you register. Can't get your background check until you register. And we're waiving the other fees. I am going to need your, as soon as you register, I'm going to put a form out to get your uniform sizes, because we're going to give you a complimentary shirt, not the shirt, but the shirt we wear, a whistle, socks, and shorts, which is pretty cool. So yeah, that's probably like, I don't know, 80, 100 bucks worth of stuff, maybe, I don't know, 80 bucks. Pretty cool. And we're waiving the fees for right now for the membership fees. All you have to do is register with the state to get your background, because we don't control any of that. So we can't waive that. So do that, get on board, register if you haven't. And that's what we're doing. So thanks, Nicole. Yeah, we're happy. Basketball is going to try that this year too. We're trying. Look, it's really hard to get officials. If you know someone that would like to join, even though we're a couple weeks in, as you can see, you're not too far along. It's a self-paced thing. If you know someone that would like to join, there's actually, I believe, a bounty. We're paying officials, if, I don't know what it is, $50, I think, to bring someone on that gets into the season. Like, because the honest truth is, if you're available, you will work. If you're available this year, you will get as many games as you would like to do. If you only want to work once a week, you'll get once a week. If you want to work 6 times a week, you'll get 6 times a week, and weather depending. So it's a great sport. It's fun, great exercise, and I know you'll enjoy it as much as I do.
Bill, last week's video, is that in the curriculum also? The link?
I don't know if I put that up there. Did we talk a lot last week? I'm not so sure we talked a lot.
No, it was short. Last week was short.
It was
think it
short.
was like 20 minutes.
Yeah, and I don't think, Randy, it was just you and I last week, right? I think
Yeah, there was nothing to review.
nothing to read, not like this week.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing. Basically, this was the week we really jumped in. Okay. So, but I'll post that link in the curriculum as a follow-up to this. And I hope to see, look, I'd love for you guys to dig into the test a little bit, bounce around, and maybe take a few questions, and let's start getting into that, because I'm going to ask you guys your opinion on these questions when we're together. So thanks for joining. And is there any other questions on anything? Nope.
Billy, this was great. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. And for all of you that are listening to the recording, make sure you reach out to me through email and let me know you're up to date. Okay. That keeps me in the loop, because I don't know if you're watching this. All right, guys. Hey, listen, have a great one. And we'll dig into the test more next week. We kind of ran a little longer than I thought, but I try to keep this to 45 minutes to an hour. I don't want to bore you guys to death, but here to help. And I think we're going to start to dig into the content a little more next time. Okay.
Have a good night.
All right, guys.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a great one.